Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the third devlog for Aviator Springs Airport Reservation System. Um, and this devlog isn't going to be too big because I mainly just created something small and I wanted to share it. However, it is a pretty. I feel like it's a very vital step in the right direction, and I feel like I wanted to show it really quickly. So anyway, the only things that I really okay. So let's start off with the basic thing. I added a little footer. This isn't really that good of a design, but it's pretty good. And I don't think I showcased last devlog. I might have showcased it, but I can't remember. I don't think I did. Um, but I don't think I showcased this looking in mobile view. So we'll do that real quick. And don't worry about the console. There's some things I have to fix. Anyway, this is how it looks like generally in mobile view. I think I showed like this. But this whole thing looks pretty much like this. I might fix this or change it. Like I said, this is probably a temporary thing or just something to put in. I'm not exactly sure I want to keep that. But yeah, so this is mobile. And it also scales fairly well. Um, yeah. I don't know why Google Chrome does this weird stuff, but uh, yeah. So let us talk about what I did. So I got this generally working. Now, the only thing that this does is it takes all the inputs, builds a link, and then redirects to that link. Now, how does it do that? Well, simply, I will demonstrate for what it does and all the features behind this, and then we'll just take a look at the code. So, I don't know. So, the way this is going to work is it's going to display a drop down based on specifically what happens, right? So if I do, for example, EWR, the idea will be it'll come up with the EWR thing and whatever, and anything related. But that's not implemented right now. I think I'm going to implement that when I get API, when I start working with API directly. So, but with the API directly. But right now we're just gonna focus on this. So I'll type in something like let's type in EWR, enter destination. It'll be let's see here. I don't know. LGA. That is the dumbest fucking flight ever. But yeah. And now here's the first big difference. So you see departing. Now you remember there was something here, right? There was returning. But you don't want returning if you're doing one way. But you want returning if you're doing round trip. And that's the beauty of this, is that it will only show what you need to put in when you have this filled. Another thing is that if you press button, it won't work until you set everything up. I want to do a little display where it's like fill in everything or kind of thing. But if it, at the current moment, it just kind of throws that into the console. Say at the bottom, please fill in all the values. So, but eventually, I want to get around to actually doing this legitimately, like putting something on display saying, "Hey, fill all these in" or whatever. So, I'll have to take a look at that. Anyway, so departing. Yeah, so basically, let's set this up. So, just to prove that this works, right? So, if I do this, hit find flights, boom. Now we get the whole shebang pretty much. That will display a link with all the variables. Now if we do round trip, right? Now remember when I had everything put in, I had up to here, right? And it worked, right? Because there was nothing in returning. But if I hit this now, it won't work because I have round trip in there. I need to put something into here. And there we go. And then it also adds that on top of it. So the link pretty much works. So what's the next step, right? Well, the next step, well, not even the next step. Well, yeah, the next step will be building out the flight list. That's kind of what I want to do, is build out the flight list generally, and then be able to take that information, and from that information, pull from the API. That's kind of the goal, right? Anyway, so let's demonstrate now what the code does. All right, let's start. Let's start with the state, right? So this .state contains a lot of things, right? So we're going to start off by having, so we have a redirect. Now what redirect does is this pretty much determines whether or not we should redirect to another page. That is evident over here. If we want to redirect, it'll basically return a redirect. Otherwise, it'll return the actual page component, page, whatever. So it'll either redirect or not, pretty much. And based on this, that's determined. Then we have the various variables for this, origin, destination, type, and so forth. Then we have is return visible. Now this is determined whether or not this is showing. Now the way we handle this is we have something called where is it? Is return visible here, right? So when we do set type, it's going to change on set type, right? That's kind of the logic behind it. So we'll check, hey, if the value is one way, set it to false. If it's anything else, and there can only be two values, set it to true. Right, so that's kind of how return visible works, and then we kind of display it here. This state is return visible, and then we I forget the name of this type of if statement, if you will, or this type of bool. But basically, it'll display either dblock or dnone. I like to do dblock when I do stuff like this because it kind of makes it more apparent what you're trying to make it. So yeah. Anyway, that's how that works. So it gets the state, and then based on the state value, it'll put something in. What else do we have here? And then we have link, and link is pretty much so. Yeah, let's go over how it builds the link now, right? So because that's pretty much where this ties in. So we'll talk about pretty much how everything is obtained, and then we'll talk about that, right? So everything is obtained by having sets, right? So we set origin, destination, type, depart date, return date, and I can remove this. Anyway, we set all those, right? We have sets. Now basically on change, for example, where is it? Yeah. So on change, this does set origin. On change, this does set destination. So everything on change will change and then put that value back into here. That's kind of the logic behind this. So simply put, it'll just change the state and make it whatever on change. So that's how that works. Now, as for build link, this is done when you click the submit button, and this is kind of a fairly decent function that will pretty much just take whatever the hell you have up here and put it into a link, right? So first thing first is initially have link that, and we actually don't need first in this logic. I had a logic done and it was kind of stupid, so I kind of removed it. But in short, you sorry about that. You have a link, and then this link, will have will be directed to flight list. And if you go here, where is it, in app, we have our routes, our switch, which is a bunch of routes. Well, flight list is one of those paths that go to flight list as the component. And if you if you see, we have just test here, right? That kind of determines if I just do a whole bunch of random shit, right? And then we'll just demonstrate that working. Boom, see test and a whole bunch of stuff. So that means that actually goes to the proper component, right? So if we go back here, so pretty much the whole idea behind this is, hey, so first of all, we're going to want to prevent default, because the default functionality of a submit button is pretty much to take everything and put it and like refresh the page or go to another page, like PHP style, I think, right? If that's the correct term. But we don't want it to do that. We don't want it to do anything. So we hit prevent default to prevent that from happening. Then we set link, as I mentioned, to flight list, because that's our path, or our route towards flight list. So I want to set this. Now keep in mind, when you have a route such as flight list or whatever your route may be, query strings or query parameters, I could just do this. Query parameters, as you can see here, aren't really affected by the route, right? So, well, the reason why is because, if I think correctly, because we don't have exact, right? If we had exact, and then we did, I think anyway, right? It shouldn't work. No, it still does. Okay. I guess query parameters that don't actually matter at all. They're like entirely not related. So yeah, that's that. Um, they're not related to how it is, so that's kind of a good thing to know because query parameters are basically specifically designed, or the query string is specifically designed to send information to a link or to a route. So that's kind of it. So anyway, we have this as the default, right? Now we're simply going to check here. We're going to check if origin, destination, depart, and type are are valid, right? If they're valid, if they're things, right? We can then, oh sorry, if they're not valid, we will basically just display console.log. This will probably change to something else though. Otherwise, set link to basically, or add to link this query string, which puts everything into a query string. Then you simply just do a check. Hey, if this is good, um, then it's kind of redundant here. But basically, if this is kind of good, basically, okay. So if it's round trip and returning, or if its type is one way and it's not returning, so one or the other, then add link to this as well, right? And then it just is another if link is returning. I could honestly handle this so much better, but I kind of just made a little bit of a rush in it, so I'm probably going to change that a little bit. Anyway, we have a console.log, which we don't actually need. And then we have this dot set state, right? So basically what happens is once we build the link, we then set redirect to true and create and like finish the link. So we put the link in there, and then once that happens, that resets the save. I think that resets the save state or something like that of the browser. And when it does that, it runs this code again, right? And because it does that, it runs the if statement, and it checks the state. So because we changed redirect and then it resets the save state, it will then check redirect. See redirect is true, then it's going to return the redirect. This is how we actually change to the other page, to the other route. So what we do is we do a redirect and then we do a push to the link that we just added in. Now, this is probably a really important thing. I'm not sure if this is a good thing to do. This was probably not, because I only saw it recommended like once. However, I guess let me know if it's not that good. But if here's an example, right? If I didn't have the push, this is what it would do. Boom. And as you can see, it just keeps its own redirect history. And I can't get back to the original thing unless I did this or I clicked on home, right? But if you add push, what it does is it takes its redirect and it pushes it on top of the history, which then allows you to go back. So that's kind of the pretty important part. Anyway, so you push to the link, which will be whatever, and it will definitely have flight list within it, which will basically allow it to go to flight list. And that's the general, pretty much the idea behind how I have this system set up. That was actually a little bit longer than I expected, but yeah. So that's pretty much what I have improved on now. In the next video or the next update, I'm going to probably have the flight list finished in terms of the design, and I don't know if I'm going to do the functionality before the devlog. I'm actually probably just going to show you guys, the look, and then I'm going to show you the functionality, like in two separate devlogs. That's probably how I'm going to do it. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I just got this done. It was actually kind of fun to learn a lot more about React and how to do certain things. Here's a fun little fact too, by the way, if you didn't know about, before I leave, if you didn't know about React is very callback heavy. So when you're handling states, you'll see that this type of stuff here, right? So when you're handling states and you try to do something with a state in the same moment, it's handled differently, right? So the actual state is updated on the next frame, I guess, that if that makes sense, the next save state, as I mentioned before. I don't know the correct terminology, so forgive me, but it gets updated like one after. So if you try to do something, for example, if I did console.log state.depart, actually, it would probably be better to show here this.state.origin, right? Oh, sorry, whoops. I'm not the smartest person. Okay. And then if I get here, and if you look here, look, it's one behind the way I'm handling it, right? But if I do, I could have honestly just copied and pasted, and I'm an idiot for not. But if I do that, now it's instant. See? Boop. Boom. See? Nothing. One. Nothing. One. So the reason for this is that this is a callback, and this pretty much allows it to be instantaneously and automatically updated, and it actually uses what you just updated state to pretty much. So it's automatic. So this is very useful for things like pages, right? Like you want to use that state as soon as you update it, right? So you're going to want to probably, call a function that modifies the actual page it's on or something, right? That's where that's useful. So that's something to know. It took me a little bit to understand and utilize, but it was really cool. When I first did this, I actually didn't know that you could use it this way. There was another way of doing it that really was kind of messy, but this is kind of how I do it now, and how I think you should do it. So that's something cool to know. Anyway, enough of me talking. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.